Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Goody, Steve Goody Property Coach. Great to have everybody on board. Coming to you live from a very chilly Wellington today. She's about 9 degrees today. Not enjoying that at all. Hope it's warmer where you are. Great to have a good crowd of people online tonight. I know that there's been some downages with internet around the country this evening and some tech problems. So really great to have as many people on board this evening as we do. This is part 5 of a 6-part webinar series, the last part being next Wednesday evening for this series of webinars building up to my property investors bootcamp on the 15th of September and in central Auckland at Eden Park. And I've been a property investor in this country for about 25, 30 odd years now. I've got I think a pretty wealth of knowledge in property investing, so I really enjoy doing these. But tonight I'm really looking forward to this because I bloody love property trading. It's all of the fun bits that I enjoy about real estate, and none of the taking care of tenants for 10 years part. So I really enjoy hunting for property deals and looking for great and creative ways to add value to property investors and property investment. And so property trading really, really appeals to me. And our guest this evening is a prolific Auckland-based property trader and one of my best friends in the world, Mr. Shane Carruthers. I'm going to bang him up on the screen here very, very shortly. But just to give you a rundown, I suppose we can get him up on the screen now and he can introduce himself. Here we go. Here is Shane. Hey, Shane.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for doing this. I know you absolutely love it when I force you into doing these things. So how long have you been trading now and working and running cash flow property deals?
Be over a decade now, probably more like 15 years. Yeah. Probably sort of, 2000 or something, 2005.
Yeah. Honestly,
that math is my thing, 2010 maybe,
Very, very cool. And I always drag you out for these things for doing the property trading side because you are a fairly prolific property trader and I like that. And I like the way that you've run your business in the last few years and cut down on the actual physical numbers of deals that you've done, but increased the quality of deals that you've done. And you've got fussy about your time and efforts. And I think that's really useful to the gathered people online tonight who might be interested in property trading. But also you're fully registered and licensed real estate agent, run your own agency out of Herne Bay there. And you specialize in a few different suburbs. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Where do you mainly do most of your work?
So I do most of my sourcing sort of throughout the country. It's not typically in Auckland. It's mainly sort of the smaller centres or sort of smaller cities where the yield is, where it's easier to transact for a lower price point, with a bigger pool of buyers. So if you're sort of under $1 million or even under 500, there's just going to be a lot more buyers, and your investment when you're renovating is a lot less. So it's just an easier and lower risk sort of a strategy.
Yep.
So that's sort of my main focus in those areas.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of people are going to listen to you tonight and gather the fact that you're pretty knowledgeable about this stuff and you're going to show a couple of deals that you've done in the past. But if anybody wants to get in touch with you after the webinar tonight, obviously probably the best deal would be to search Cashflow Property on Facebook and join your page there. Any other ways of getting in touch with you?
Yeah, cashflowproperty.co.nz would be the best option. Yep, and just pop me a message or give me a call. Happy to chat.
Awesome. All right, and you first started in sort of a more serious property investment, 12, 15 years ago when you were actually a client of mine in one of my coaching programs. What attracted you to trading property as opposed to the standard old, buy and hold long term, or do you use it as a skill and do both at the same time?
Yeah, well, I think you need both. Yeah, you definitely want to buy and hold. Long-term wealth creation is certainly best there. I think what happened for me is I got excited about property, bought books, went to seminars and was just like, man, I'm just going to buy like 50 properties and this is going to be amazing. And drive a Ferrari and all of that. And then what you work out is by the time you get to sort of 3 properties, the banks are just like, we're not actually going to give you any more money. And you're like, that seems a bit unfair. So I worked out through reading some books and through going to a seminar that sort of introductory seminar that you had in Wellington, that you could actually trade property. So you could sort of fund deposits or just have income from sourcing property deals with an add value, and either contemporaneously or double settling them because there was an opportunity there, or by renovating them and then taking them back to the market in perfect condition. And so that excited me, because it was a sort of a way to sort of bridge the gap and still let me buy more property, but also it's turned into obviously a business, and I sort of quit my job because of it. So yes, that's sort of how I was really introduced to it. I didn't know that you could do that, as most people probably don't. You don't know what you don't know. But yeah, that was sort of the journey. And as you said, you were my property coach, and you had such a huge amount of knowledge and skills on how to navigate doing trades and doing it in a safe way. So making good profit, but not, high risk strategy. So I quite like that. Yeah. And subsequently, reluctantly, we've become friends over the years. So yeah.
Anyway, that's tonight's webinar. Thanks, everybody. Friends like these. Yeah, but
Exactly.
one of the things that I really found when I was doing the same exploration that you were, reading all of the books, doing all the things, is that it seems like every book you opened up was very Americanized, and it was very, buy low, sell high, and it was very, rah, rah, and everything's positive, but it wasn't actually a how-to guide. And I think that like most of the times when people talk about trading property in America, they're talking about doing hundreds of properties a week, and if it goes wrong, you just leave the state. You know what I mean? Like, and we just can't do that on this little island that we live in. And so
smaller dollar values, they're like 50 grand or something.
Yeah.
Per house.
Yeah. Per house. Yeah. And so finding specialist advice that's based in New Zealand about the New Zealand property market, I think is really important, but also not everything works at every point in the cycle of property. And if anybody, online tonight has followed me extensively, and I imagine most of you probably have, because, that's where these people come from, is my page. You will have seen this property clock, and we had a lot of discussion and conversation about that this week when I put this up on the page. And funnily enough, when you're a creator with Facebook now, there's an AI tool that averages out every comment on your page. Have you seen this? So it's pretty cool. So there was 95 comments on the post where I put this property clock up and said, where does everybody think we are at the moment? And so the average comment that AI generates for you tells us that we're somewhere between 6 and 7 o'clock on this property clock, which I just found incredibly interesting, because I love using the size of my Facebook page to sort of crowdsource an answer for things. So we're not in the boom. Most obviously, we're a long way away from a boom, but we're also not in the slump. New Zealand is technically in a recession at the moment. So we're definitely somewhere near that 6 o'clock, but we're actually coming out of it as well. So the average answer, the average reply was sort of 7:30, which means that we are very quickly coming up on a recovery, which to my mind, with 30 years and 4 odd property cycles experience, says to me that we're coming into the absolute prime time to start looking at property trading as another viable and active strategy in the marketplace. Would you agree with that, Shane, or are you gonna fight me on this?
No, I do agree. Yeah, so I haven't been around a long time. You've certainly got a lot more experience, a lot more property cycles, but
Cool.
you're old. This is the Old Man podcast. Yeah, welcome, guys. Yeah, it does seem like it's cresting into a good market, and the drivers of that are lowering interest rates, and you had a pent-up demand of a market. What happens when the market goes flat is you don't have transactions, and those transactions being lower doesn't necessarily mean that the demand isn't still there. It's just people can't buy or aren't prepared to. So that demand's still there. So it seems like with these interest rates lowering, it's going to mean more buyers are going to come to the market. It's going to be more transaction. You're going to have all of the newspapers saying the market's going to take off, which will affect things. So Yep, it is a perfect trading market. You couldn't have a better time where you're just cresting over, and we still get a deal if you're experienced and you know what you're doing, and that's why people should get coaching from you so they know how to maneuver things correctly. But there's also going to be a big pool of buyers who aren't experienced who will happily pay retail. So those two don't often exist, because when it's a boom market, everyone's paying top dollar. So you can't get the opportunity to create the gap between the buy and the sell. And in a flat market, you can get the deal of the century, but no one's around to buy it. So you're sort of standing in the street going, I have this amazing product, and people are just crossing the street. So yeah, so I would tend to agree that now seems to be, perfect time. You heard it here first. If it works out, we look like geniuses. If not, just delete this recording.
But everybody's saying the same thing. We had Matthew Gilligan on recently, and he said exactly the same thing. He said the slump's behind us. And realistically, in my mind, it's not about lower OCR rates either, because lower OCR rates make us more wealthy and make us feel more wealthy and give us more disposable income. But it doesn't allow us to actually borrow more money. What allows us to borrow more money is an easing of the test rates. And it looks like, I was talking to a mortgage supply company this week, and they're saying that most test rates around the country have gone down 0.25%. So they were at 9, they're now at 8.75 or somewhere around there, which gives anybody with 3 or 4 houses or more a little bit more money that they can actually borrow against their portfolio. And it gives the bank another excuse to lend the money to them, which the banks want to do. And so, I'm looking at this and going, well, coming into spring and summertime this year, I think that the market is actually going to warm really nicely. I'm not saying boom, I'm not saying spike or bubble or take off or anything like that, but I think we might be at sort of 8 o'clock on that property cycle with undersupply in some areas and oversupply in others. Obviously, if you're buying townhouses in South Auckland, there's a lot of stock out there, but I'm hearing a lot of comment from people regionally in Nelson, Tauranga, Taranaki, saying that they can't get enough stock, and long may those comments keep coming, because I, base a lot of my decisions off all of those regional comments coming in too, by the way, all you guys online. That's where I see it. I think that we're up in for a slow burn recovery that's going to go and be quite long running. So that takes us back to, the ways to trade then. And I made this quick, squiffy little list of the ways that I trade. And obviously the first one is to do flips. Now, flips is a very Americanized word. We call them renos, or, this essentially means to secure a property at a very, very good price, based on the value that you think it will be when you've finished the renovation. Now, I've done thousands of these for decades, and I ran a company in New Zealand called Property Tutors with Sean Wood back in the day, and then Rich Master before that. So running back a long, long time. And one of our key skills, or our key providers in the marketplace, was the ability for us as coaches to walk into a property and go, this is a horrible, horrible house. It's dated, it's falling apart, it's nasty, but we can make it cool for only this much money, and then it's going to be worth this much money, and then resell it. And you've done plenty of these as well, Shane, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, probably more the contemporaneous than the reno, but have done some renos. Yep.
And there's a time and place in the market for each, right? But
and a point of what you want to do as well. Yeah. Some people prefer to do the reno and flip, and some people don't, because obviously if you're going to do it properly, you really need a team, and so you need momentum, and you need to be doing it all the time. If you just sort of pop in and want to do one, it is hard to kind of get everyone together. So you kind of got to have your cookie cutter and choose one and really do one really well.
Yeah, and additionally, to flip or renovate a property means that you have to settle the property, so you have to have finance, and you have to take the risk on yourself of owning that particular property for a certain period of time. Sometimes you'll only own it for 2 weeks, but on average, you'll own it for 3 or 4 months if you're specifically buying it to add value to it and then on-sell it again. Also, if you're going to flip or renovate a property, you would also always have to look at your idea of being able to contemporaneously settle the property, because a contemporaneous settlement means to secure the property under offer, and during your due diligence period of 6, 7, 10 days, 2 months, whatever it may be, to find somebody else that wants the property more than you do. And then you sell it to them, and both of those things settle on the same day. So if you do it properly, you as a purchaser shouldn't need to take any risk or any finance on it, and you make a profit. Now, if you are experienced or skilled or even know of contemporaneous settlements, there's no reason why you wouldn't consider it for every property deal that you ever look at, because it's free money with no risk in a lot of regards. You still pay tax on it, but that's fine. With a flip or a renovation, you are physically going to own it. It's your house for a certain period of time, and you are at risk with it. And I'm sure Shane and I have both met plenty of people who did a flip or a renovation, couldn't sell it for a profit, and then became a long-term investor at that point. Just kept the thing.
Yeah. And sometimes that's a strategy as well. And that's why I sort of fall back to the smaller price points, because what you can do is you can run, if it depends on what your risk strategy is. So if you're quite risk adverse, then you could go into it thinking, okay, if I renovate this nicely and then I take it to the market and no one wants it, can I rent it and will it pay its own way? So if it's a 500, 800K property, it's going to be fine. When you get doing a $2 million reno, you're not going to rent it. So that is a strategy as well, to sort of, have a look at that and see whether the numbers work, that if you end up being an accidental landlord,
Absolutely.
owning it, that, can you do that? And that will certainly de-risk it a little bit for you. So that's another option.
Yeah, having a strong plan B is always essential. And so if you're looking at a flip or a renovation or a contemporaneous settlement, what are you actually looking for yourself? What key things are you looking for, say, on Trade Me when you first see it, and what do you want in the contract to secure it?
That's not how you spell contemporaneous, but I love it.
I
feel like that's how I would spell when I talk into my microphone for texting.
Kind of staring at it now, isn't it? Yeah.
So trade deals, So typically, depending on what you want to do, so if you want to renovate and you want to do a proper renovation or paint carpet, then you're looking for older distressed homes that preferably aren't actually in really good condition, but are just tired.
Yeah.
And it's like a flashback to the 60s, but there's actually not any major issues. That's probably your bread and butter. Go and do that, put a fence up, mow the lawns, paint the outside, paint the inside, paint over the wallpaper, over the light switches, replace them, and do simple stuff where you can just get tradespeople in to do the bits and pieces, carpet layers and stuff. If you're replacing bathroom fittings, then you're actually putting them in the same place. So tool it out and tool it in. So there's no major stuff happening there. And then there's the other side of it, which is one that needs a bulldozer through it, maybe. And sometimes they can be amazing deals and you can make a huge amount of money on it, but you don't know until you start pulling the layers of the onion back what you're actually ending up with. And probably the lowest risk, if you ask me what I would typically look for if I was starting out, I would do a Trade Me search and I would look for houses that have large floor plans of over 100 square meters, maybe even 120, 140, but are 2 bedrooms that have 2 lounges and maybe a huge laundry like they used to have. So you can convert you're buying a 2-bedroom price, but you can convert it quite easily, sometimes with a partition wall and a door, to a 4 bedroom, which is going to increase its value. So now in the 4-bedroom market, if you're going to be on flipping it or on selling it, or if you're going to keep it as a rental, you're going to get a much higher yield. You might go from $400 a week rent to $600. So that's typically what I would be looking for. I do look for ones with larger pieces of land as well. So there's always the option to have that to add a minor dwelling or cabins. Used to look for them a lot more because people used to buy them to do a resource consent to get 5 townhouses on there and then flip it, put and get a long settlement and do it. But everyone's done that, and that's why we've got 1,200 townhouses on the market currently in Auckland. So I probably wouldn't aim for that strategy, but I certainly wouldn't be a bad idea to get something with a big piece of land.
Yeah.
Or, Hamilton, a lot of their zoning's changing. So if you work out where that is changing, and you buy in those locations, that could be a good upside for a trade, for a contemporaneous settlement.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so basically what you're trying to do is something that you can easily and quickly add some value to without going all council load-bearing walls and bits and pieces like that, having to go crazy on it, and add some instant value to it, put it back on the marketplace again.
And you'd be surprised that the buyers, typically first-time buyers, they will have viewed the property when it was knackered and been like, I have zero interest in this. You put it back on looking beautiful on a sunny day.
Yeah, might have been,
with some staging furniture in there, and they're like, yeah, I will pay $150,000 more for this because now I don't have to do any of this work. And maybe that is a logical solution for them, because maybe they would have never done the reno. So it is God's work, really, because we are tidying up all of these houses and making them healthier and and making some money along the way. That's how I like to think of it.
And how do you get to sell those properties? If are you putting them back onto Trade Me, or are you going through your database? Are you because you and I have both built reasonable sized databases over the last few years. How are you selling your trades?
So I'm selling it through a database, because I've built a database over the last sort of 15 years and built relationships with people who want me to find them properties. If you didn't have that, then you could look to put it back on Trade Me. But that would only be if you ended up owning it. So if you were settling it, I think that's still your best portal to put properties into is Trade Me.
Yep.
And you could actually run some Facebook. If you didn't want to do that, you could run some Facebook ads, which perform way better than Trade Me. So you could sell it that way if you wanted to.
Yeah. And how would you recommend people who are thinking about doing some trading and don't have a database yet, how would they go about getting one?
We'll just start with getting a few people that, potentially want you to source property for them, that don't have time, that are time poor, don't have the expertise to find properties. There's a lot of people like that are quite happy to have someone find them the deal. Because there is a lot of time, and there's a lot of skill that you need that you don't have when you first start out. So if people are not going to be full-time property traders, they just want a property, then they'd happily do that. Yeah. So, and joining a mentoring group like yours would be what I would do, and that's what I do, because you've got instant access to a whole lot of people. Some people will have good income, but they won't have any equity. So, you could JV together. Some people will have huge equity. They're a little bit older. They don't have the cash flow. So you find someone who does have a job and you JV, or you maybe have none of those things, but you can find deals. Yeah. So that to me is the power of the community that you've built, is that you can get that support and you can do business together. In those groups, which you won't have, because if you fall back and out into the real world and you tell them that you're going to buy these properties, renovate them, sell them, and make heaps of money, people will tell you that that's very risky and that you're probably stupid. So you need that peer group to keep you and lined up. Yeah, I mean, I started my database back in the day with a single page with an email opt-in. Didn't even get people's phone numbers. That's how old I am. That we didn't even imagine that we would text people. I think it was 20 cents a text. So it was like, there's no way. So I regret not doing a phone number, but now you do phone number, email, and you don't need many. If you had 10 people, that would be plenty.
Yeah. And you say about the power of that community too. And I had a weird one today. Yesterday I put something up talking about real estate agents changing the value of a property on homes.co.nz. Did you see this post?
No.
So real estate agent
didn't know you could do that.
Real estate agent did an appraisal on a property, listed the property, and then changed the homes value on homes.co.nz. It went up $1.33 million. It's about a $3 million house. It nearly doubled in value.
Oh, significant change.
Massive change. So I posted it on my page and went, does this look dodgy to anybody? And about 100 people said that it did look really, really dodgy. And one of the people that came back to me was Trade Me, who own homes.co.nz, and they have opened an investigation.
How can you even change it though?
Well, they can. Real estate agents just go, we appraised it at this, we did a CMA, a report, and we decided.
You have to submit that to them though, and they have to accept
Yeah,
it.
yeah, but how dodgy, right? Anyway, we'll see what they have come to say. Anyway, going back to what we were talking about. So then we've got flip and renovate, and I think everybody pretty much understands that contemporaneous settlement, no matter how it's spelled, is a good strategy, and it means that you don't have to take risk over the property. You don't have to pay a deposit. You don't have to confirm that you're going to go unconditional on the property until after somebody else has confirmed that they're going unconditional to you. They then supply you with the deposit. You take a fee or a margin for passing the deal on, and that person takes the property deal over and they settle it. And the third one, which is, I threw in here just to mention it because it's available and it happens, and it's mainly for more experienced players, is bulk deals. Now, what I mean by bulk deals is being contacted by a developer, as you and I both have in the past, and they've said, hey, we've got 30 of something. Would you like to sell it to your list or your database? And, that can be quite lucrative. This is a business model that a lot of big companies around New Zealand have taken on, and they pass the property on, take a fee or a margin from the purchaser and usually from the developer as well. If you've got that database and those skills, and you are a licensed real estate agent or aligned with a licensed real estate agent, that can be a really good thing as well. Most 99% of people will do flip and occasionally contemporaneous settlement. Now, the reason that I love flips and contemporaneous settlements is that the number of years I spent looking to find properties that I wanted to buy and settle for my whole portfolio, I must have tripped over dozens that I could have flipped, could have done as a contemporaneous settlement, taken a fee, and hadn't thought of it. And it just does my head in. Additionally, when you are maxed out for lending and can't borrow any more for the bank, you've gone to RTBNZ or whatever it may be, and they've gone, cool your jets, wait for the next property cycle. You're going to have to pay some debt down. You can still flip and you can still contemporaneously settle, because you could do it with no money. You can do it with other people's money. And that means that anybody on the call tonight who's like stuck and can't fund deals has an outlet in a way that they can grab some skills and actually make some cash flow dollars. And this is what we did with Property Tutors for a decade. We worked in a very, very hot market. I remember working with Sean Wood in South Auckland, and he worked in 4 suburbs, and he had about 100 clients at that stage. And there was about 90 properties on the market, and that those 100 clients could have a go at in South Auckland, and that was it. And they were still making profits and still making money. And the act of making that money means that they could prove their income, so they could go back to the banks later on and get more finance and buy more hold properties, which is where your long-term wealth comes from. And as I said at the start of this webinar, this is what makes me really excited, because this is the fun part. Because Shane gets to sit there in his office and hit Trade Me and ring up agents and throw deals out there, and it's the thrill of the chase, and it's the fishing part of the trip, and that's what I really love about it. And then
doing the deal,
yeah. And it's too, like, you do a cool deal, and then the following week you try and do a deal that's cooler, and you're always trying to better yourself, and you end up with a massive amount of skills that you don't really realize that you've acquired largely, which is very, very fun as well.
By doing, because that's the thing with a lot of, now you've got Google and probably AI and probably every possible, we've probably got the entire history of the world on the internet. It's not knowledge, it's implementing that knowledge. Yep. So that's why I did mentoring with you, because I'd read all the books. That's how old I am. I actually literally read a book. Didn't watch a YouTube clip. And yeah, we didn't. I don't even think there was webinars back then. Maybe just near the end. But I had all the knowledge, but I didn't know how to implement it. And what I found was knowledgeable with your mentoring was that you actually guided me through the process of taking the action. And so that's the difference, I think, with knowledge and actually taking the action. Is anyone can just have the knowledge. You could put a PDF together tonight and send it to everyone on here on how to contemporaneously settle it, however that's spelt. And but yeah, you need to know how to actually implement the action plan.
Yeah, and that's the thing I like about that boot camp that we do is it's not specifically a training day. It's not sit there and write a whole pile of notes. It's this is how I did it, and this is how you can do it now and do it better than I did. And it's a step by step, and we're working really hard at the moment. We're rewriting a lot of the slides from the last time we did this for the changing market, but also for the fact that the strategies have changed from what they were even just 6 months ago. And rewriting all of that to teach people and send them out in the marketplace with some skills that they can actually use on Monday morning after the event. But, this is the reasons why I think all investors should trade. Obviously, number one is cash flow. The biggest problem that most property investors get in this country is they buy a whole pile of stuff and they get stuck. And, Shane, you and I have both been there. You go to the bank, no more money, do something else, earn more, DTIs, loan to value ratio restrictions. You don't have enough equity. You don't have enough cash flow. You can never keep it completely right so you can borrow money at all times. And so doing a contemporaneous settlement or a flip or a reno, and you don't own the assets, you don't have a debt at the end of it, all you're left with is the profit. And when we say profit, we're talking, a very, very small profit on a very borderline deal would be $30,000 or $40,000. I think the average profit for a flip or a contemporaneous settlement or a renovation, well, I don't know what you think, maybe between $50,000 and $80,000. And a good one
for a renovation, contemporaneous probably 10, 15, but that's huge money, not a small amount of money. Yeah,
and it's quick and it's cash flow. And I know that I got very much into contemporaneous settlements during lockdown because, you're sitting there, laptops on your lap, bored as hell. All you can do is go through Trade Me. There's nothing else to do. I did 5 or 6 of them and made a couple $100,000 out of that, just sitting there with nothing else to do. So this is why I think all property investors should be doing trades is, number one, cash flow, because even if you have to give a lot of the money you make to IRD and tax, it's still money that you've earned, that you've proved that you've earned, so you can borrow more money the year after. The second one is experience, because you learn an awful lot by doing a lot of transactions all at once. And as Kiwis, we're prolific at buying a house about every 7 or 8 years and just sitting on our hands and, doing stuff pretty slowly, and that bores the snot out of me. So I'd rather be doing more stuff. And the third one that you get from experience is market knowledge in your target areas. And we mentioned Sean Wood tonight, and like his prolific anomaly with trading was he never goes and looks for a trade property. He's always looking for hold properties or properties that he would settle himself. And if he can't buy it himself, he'll pass it on to somebody else for a fee. And that's the reason why I think those 3 things are why everybody online tonight should consider and have the skills at trading properties and doing renos as well. Now,
I agree.
The very last one there is, if you can buy a property and renovate it equitably and make it good for somebody else, it's probably good for you as well, because you're going to buy horrible, stinking, nasty houses that you want to add value to and then hold them as well. So it's just a skill you're going to need anyway. So, yeah, I think I'm preaching to the choir here, the converted online tonight. Like, I think everybody knows that they need to be doing this stuff and have the skill. So we will move on. So let's have a look at a deal. I believe this is one that you've done regionally. This is Christchurch, isn't it? The deal that you've, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk us through how this one came about, sort of how it came to you, what the process was, any pitfalls, give us the full picture.
Yeah, so I had a client of yours contact me with a property that she potentially was looking at buying, but already had too much on the go and potentially couldn't finance it. She could if she needed to, but it stacked up really well. And it was basically a sort of a 1.5 type house, with a sort of 2 stories, and then the front bit's 1 story. A huge house, 180 square meters. Configured as like a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom, had a couple of lounges, internal garage, premium location, sort of homeowner location, not a rental area. Road frontage, everything you want, the right zoning, earthquake side of things. And so what we did is we looked at the floor plan and saw that, you're not going to need a couple of lounges. So we had one of the lounges, which was sort of used as a dining room, which came off the kitchen. If you flick through the images a little bit further.
This one, yep.
So that bit there where you've got the kitchen, and that's actually the lounge in the left-hand photo, and then you go through, you can see that leather couch.
Yep.
On the second photo, that's basically a sunroom. So that's a bedroom. So easy conversion there to another bedroom, and then still maintain the lounge that you've got. And then flick through another image, which should be there. So this is the garage, so an internal garage. So the good thing with an internal garage is it's basically built like the house is. It's insulated, it's got jib on it, etc. And there was already a partial partition through the middle of it, and they weren't using it as a garage. So you would get 2 more rooms in there. So you've now got 8 bedrooms, over 180 square meters, and 2 bathrooms. So fully functional. You haven't like shrunk it down to where you've got standing room only. And because of the location, a rent by the room would work, where people, not necessarily students, could be anyone who moved to town, was a student, or someone was a bit older, maybe divorced or something. They couldn't afford, say, $800 a week rent, but they could have a room in the house and pay sort of $250 to $270. So we got a rental appraisal on that at about sort of $1,800, $1,900, which is sort of $230. So using the lower end of the rent by the room, and that ended up, the purchase price was $730 for the buyer. So that was a 13% yield.
Yes, a 730 yield.
Yep.
Well,
13 says 12.5, but it's 13, and nearly $100,000 of income, and that's just by reconfiguring a big house, and none of it was going to need a consent. You know, the bedroom side of things, you might need to get an opinion around that side of things, but you know, if it's a habitable space, the internal part of the garage was, and so it was the sunroom.
Yep.
And then we also got a rental appraisal to make it easier for financing of it just being rented as 8-bedroom house, 2 bathroom, which actually there's not a lot like that. And some people do have big families, or they have older parents that want to live with them, or 2 families want to live together, and there isn't that many options. So the rental appraisal for that was $1,200. So that was still 8% yield. And
you could also look at Airbnb as well, you know, sports groups, you know, big families, that sort of thing as well. Yeah.
Yep. Solid house. That was a great deal. Buyer was really happy. And that was a contemporaneous. So we sort of got it under contract. We did all the conversion side of it through floor plans and getting rental appraisals, and sort of assisted the buyer with all his due diligence. So that's an example of, you know, and sort of really a no money in deal, a win-win for everyone. The vendors got what they needed out of it, but they couldn't see what we could with all the extra rooms, and not even pokey small rooms, like they're huge.
Yeah.
So happy tenants as well, and that's, you know, and that would value to close to 900,000 now, even in the super flat market. So where it would get to based on cap rate, and cap rate, a simple explanation for that is when you get into higher rental returns, it becomes like a commercial sort of a calculation. So they work out what the yield is in that location, and they sort of use the income to extrapolate that out to work out what the value would be, because there's no comparables. So they sort of blend that with the price. So that may well be worth sort of 1.1 in a few years, even just based on cap rate. So that's a cracker deal.
Not bad at all. Yeah, so the vendor that originally sold it didn't have the vision, just wanted to get rid of the house, accepted 730. Your buyer, who secured the deal, negotiated it properly, did a lot of paperwork, you know, painted a great picture of exactly what could be done with a lot of reality, with a bit of construction, bit of renovation, and re-letting it, and got rental appraisals to prove the point. And then you passed it on to another buyer who went, shit, you know, I can't find anything better than this myself. I'll grab this one from you. So everybody made the money all the way through.
Yeah, exactly. The buyer was really happy because they didn't have the time to look for the deal, and they didn't sort of know that strategy even sort of existed. So yeah, so that's one. And you could take it further. That could have also worked as a reno and flip. You could actually go in there, do the wall partitioning, tidy up bits and pieces where you need to, you know, and then put it back on the market, rent it, and actually fully occupy it with tenants. Because the student that sort of recommended it to me, she had a property manager who specializes in rent by the room. So, you know, you could have had that let, and then you could have potentially sold it for substantially more than that. So either option.
Yeah, you could have get 50 and then given a discount on that number to sell it and still made it, you know, maybe $100,000 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even at sort of 850, we've sold at 850, it's still going to be sort of maybe 11% yield or something. So, and it's a turnkey.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, brilliant. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for that. And that's a great example. And as you say, like, you know, looking at the photos, you know, the walls that you put in is raw timber and jib and some plaster, and then you paint over them. You really don't need to do any other renovation on the property. It looks really clean.
Yeah, you just put it over top of that carpet as well.
How easy.
Put your timber over that, so then when you pull them that wall back out, the carpet's still there. So, yeah. I think you might have taught me that.
Maybe. Sounds like one of mine. So I've got a list of key selling tips here that I'll roll through, and then if you want to add any more in yourself, then go for it. You know, when you're selling deals and selling projects, what I like to do is see through the agent's eyes. Like, a lot of times the agent has had to talk the property up to get the listing, and therefore they need some of your terminology and your words and what you see as a buyer to talk the property down to accept your offer. And the same thing when you're trying to sell a property as well. So I always like to consider taking my hat off and putting their hat on and having those mutual goals as well. Invest time and take the build up the relationship. Now, I always talk about this with my clients very, very heavily. Rapport building with agents is very, very important. Let them know what it is you're looking for and what you're trying to achieve when you're selling as well. Trust building, credibility absolutely matters. Say what you're going to do and then do what you've said. It's as simple as that. Don't mess people around. If you're not going to look at the property when the agent rings you up and gives you this hot tip, then tell them that and thank them and move on to the next one. It's as simple as that. When negotiations, try and give them what they need if you're getting what you need as well. I was negotiating one last night, exactly this particular situation. We were pretty much tapped out for money. So we went back to, can we get an earlier access? Can we pay a lesser deposit? Can we get something else back if we're going to increase our offer? And it's the same thing when you're selling as well. Win-win negotiations. Ethics and professionalism. New Zealand's a really small place. Here we are. I'm in Wellington, Shane's in Auckland. There's 300 people online between us. And you can't burn agents or agencies. And I'm saying that you can't do that, but God, I can't. I'm really well known. I would get a beating, absolute beating. So think about your, oh, stop. No, it's terrible. Think about your rapport in the marketplace and think about how you're seen by agents, both when you're buying and when you're selling. And adapt and thrive too. Like, and what I like about this one is tell the agents what you're looking for. Tell them what you want. Don't send an agent out to sell a property completely blind to how much money you would accept, because agents are very good at their job. Don't treat them like mushrooms. Put them in the dark and feed them shit. You know, say to them, look, I'd really love 700, but you go and do your job. See how much more than that you can get for me. Give them the skills and the things that they need to be able to go and do their jobs as well. And absolutely don't waste agents' time. Tire kickers are remembered, and it's not credible to do that. So don't stuff people around. Now, if I was going to add a few more to this, I would add on things like always use really decent professional photos. And one that I heard from Mark Trafford a couple of weeks ago on the webinar that we did is leaves a wow factor in the home that you don't take a photo of and put on Trade Me. Because my feeling, and Shane's about to correct me, I know he's bristling there, he's ready to go. My feeling is like that Trade Me is there to sell the open home. The open home and the agent standing there are there to sell the house. So use Trade Me as a thing to get people physically to the property, and then let the property wow them once you get there. If there's a really great view, don't take a photo of it. Let people come and see the view once they get there. All those types of things. Shane, go. What do you think?
Yep, agree with all of that. Yep, definitely build relationships. You know, do what you should you say you're going to be doing. If you're in the market to be buying, then let them know that. If you're just in the market for looking, then let them know I'm not quite ready yet, but I appreciate you giving me updates on these properties. I feel like I'm actually learning heaps from you, and when I am ready, I hope it will be one of your properties. Yeah, treating agents with respect. I mean, I know that people probably think agents are dickheads, and maybe some are and some aren't, but it's probably the same with everything. But just that mutual respect does go a long way. It's just human nature. Yeah, and agree with, sort of, just sort of framing conversations where in negotiations, just actually saying the right things to get the right message. So not just saying, this house is too expensive, and this is just saying, look, this is where I see the value with it because of these factors, or this is where my budget goes to, and I can see that it's a great property, but my budget is here and you're here.
Yep.
That's hard to argue with, and you're not going to get a conversation around that. You're going to get them pull back a little bit towards you on price. Yeah. And same with the terms, the structure of a deal is not just price. There's other factors. There's settlement date, there's terms, there's what else could be included, what could be not included. We can't get to the price, but the owners want to keep this. Well, if they take that. So, you don't need to be super fixated on price. Maybe they need a higher deposit to be increased if you're going to go for a longer settlement, because then they have a bit of cash and a bit of sweat equity. There's all of those factors. Definitely agree with you around the photos. Absolutely critical. Don't even bother marketing something with iPhone photos, or
when the agent
look like an autopsy.
You
just look at an autopsy. It's like a zoomed in on the bathroom. It's like zoomed in on the kitchen. It's just like, what are we looking at here? So,
but I'm even worried about agents showing those too. No.
A couple of $100. There's like 50,000 photographers out there that will do a full photo shoot for a couple of $100. Professional photos. You need to titivate and invite people to view. If you put 27 photos on Trade Me and people can view the entire house, they don't need to come to the opening. They've already done their inspection. They're like, okay, put like 6 or 7, or just put 1. If you want to really break the system, just put 1 in and just have it epic and have people turn up, and less is more. So the human brain reads things by bullet points. So a lot of agents will just, I don't know whether it's their CRM, but it just dumps a massive paragraph of text, and your brain just goes, I'm not reading that.
No.
Just say 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, expansive outdoor space, new heat pump, something, bullet point, and it's easy for people flicking through. So that side of it is critical, and also setting expectations if you are selling as well around prices and what you need to be doing.
Yeah,
because that will be quite important. Because if you desperately do need to sell, there's no point being shy about it. You might as well just say, look, we need to sell. This is what we need. I hope you can do more than that. And most often they will. But overpricing a property is just vanity, because all it does is it just keeps it on the market too long, and you miss that little window and it gets old. Everything will sell at a certain price. So if you get that right, in fact, if you underprice it, you may well, as you crest into a hotter market, you potentially will get more, because you price it less, it gets more demand, you get a multi-offer. So yeah, all of those strategies are good.
Yeah. And the thing with those putting very few photos up is you're trying to titillate. And so what you're doing is you're showing a bit of leg, you're trying to make it look pretty sexy. you want the person to come to the property and be more impressed with the actual property than they were with the photos. And I see so many photographers and so many marketers doing it the other way around. The photos look way better than the property when you actually turn up to it. And so very few people are turning up and buying things sight unseen. So, the hard part about selling to owner-occupiers or first-time buyers is that they look at the property once and they go, oh, that's nice. And then they bring the whole family. And then everybody looks at it and they figure out where they're going to put their furniture and they take a really close look at it. So the house has actually got to be better than the promise, so to speak. So I think it's really important. Yeah.
You can actually get photos done like a magazine quality, which is actually a lower quality, and it doesn't look as good because it's actually how your eye would see it, and it's how they produce photos when they put them in magazines. Well, that's not what real estate agents do. Is they put highly edited, highly colored, stretched out, and you'd be better to do something that was more natural, because then, like you say, when people turn up, the house is actually, it's going to look better. It's going to look substantially better. Yeah. And also just working out what your objections are going to be as well. So we had a client who sold a property recently to be able to buy a property that I was selling, and they actually got a building report done, then got the builder in to go and fix all of the stuff, then got another building report, a clean one, and it sold in 2 weeks. Yeah, because life came in. No.
Yeah, love that. No, brilliant. All right, well, I know we can go on all night, but let's move on a little. So I've got my event coming up. It's the 15th September at the Grand Room at Eden Park. We, as of today, are, about 82% sold. So the next 10 days of ticket sales are going to be the end of it. We say this every year, and every year we always get people come back. Every year you make me do this. Bang some more chairs, and we can't do it. We're at the edge of an issue with fire wardens and legality of how many people you can shove into one particular room at once. Plus, more importantly, we have to quote for the lunch because it's expensive. So it's the Seeded Property Boot Camp. It is an actual boot camp. People are going to bring along pen and paper and notes and actually learn stuff. Sorry, I'm cracking up. Somebody's just come up with a comment on the page. Their name is Steve Goody. Steve, can we be friends? Oh, sorry, no, you got a weird name.
He's got 2 friends. He's maxed out.
So we're at Eden Park in the Grand Room on the 15th September. And obviously, we're going to do a massive update for today's market, because I believe that we will see 2 more OCR reductions before the end of the year. And I think interest rates, we're going to be able to see, fixed for 12 and 6 months at under 5% before the end of the year. And I think that's going to, the government can't do anything but set this market off again, and they're going to have to do it. So I'm going to explain exactly how you can win in this market. I'm going to start with retirement planning, and I'm going to work through figuring out what strategy is best for you. We're going to go through how to actually borrow the money with a mortgage broker. Then we can talk about trusts and wills and protection, and some dry stuff and some exciting stuff. And you're going to come away with us with a roadmap of how to set up an equitable property portfolio, because I've done it, Shane's done it, and all of the other speakers you've seen in these webinars in the last few weeks have done it for themselves. And we want to see that come around for you, for institutional and intergenerational wealth for you and your families as well. So we're also going to do it from an investor panel point of view, which means that I've got a pile of my clients who have been with me for a year or two, who are most of the way through doing that for themselves. And they're going to come up and stand on stage, and they're going to talk to you about where they're at, where they were, where they are now, where they're going to. Because I think that it's really easy for me, you watch me on the Facebook and stuff, and I'm doing all this stuff every day, and it's easy for you to go, oh, Steve's done another deal, or Steve's made some cash, or Steve's done a fancy thing, or bought a stupid car. But I want you to see from the grassroots actual real people doing it as well. So we do that investor panel. And obviously we've got all of our industry experts, including Shane, including Dave Winland, Matthew Gilligan, Mark Trafford doing renovations. We're all going to be on site and answering questions on the day. Don't know if you knew that, Shane, but you are. And you're going to be able to obviously massively network with other like-minded property investors as well. Now, the ability to do that is based on the fact that we're going to provide you with lunch. So we need to figure out how much our numbers are. So we really appreciate people grabbing their tickets as early as humanly possible, which is why we're going to bang out one of the very, very last webinar offers, the special offers tonight. Now, the offers we do after this aren't going to be as good as this, because we're running out of tickets and running out of seats, and we don't need to discount them. And because that lunch cost me, well on 14 grand or something for that lunch. So I'm, trying to sell a few tickets, obviously. Let's be fair about this thing. So because you took action and showed up tonight, I'm going to do a bonus ticket deal. This is the last time I'm going to do this one tonight. Purchase any level of ticket and you get a free bonus ticket. So if you buy a VIP or ticket or a double or a genuine, you can bring a friend along with you. So if you buy a double ticket, we'll give you 4 tickets. If you buy a single ticket, you'll get 2 for whichever class you purchase. Deal's valid for only the next 24 hours. So all you need to do is go to stevegoody.com/Auckland, enter the code webinar, and we will give you 25% off the ticket price for the first 10 tickets if you use that webinar code, plus the extra ticket. Now, boom, I have got a mile of questions in here, so I'm going to bang through that. But firstly, I'm going to say that we've got one more webinar to go, which is Wednesday, and I've written an absolute crap load of notes and slides and bits and pieces. And the webinar is going to be for people that have bought tickets to this event, and it's how to get the most out of the event. So we're going to walk you through exactly how to make the most of this event, which means a little bit of homework beforehand, et cetera, et cetera. Now, also, when you're thinking about these webinars and considering them and stuff, and if you want to see more of them, go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to there. We've uploaded all of these webinars, and we will upload tonight's webinar to the YouTube channel, so you can watch them again and get some tips and tricks out of those as well. And also, obviously, go to Cashflow Property Deals on Facebook and cashflowdeals.co.nz, isn't it, Shane?
What's that?
Your website, cashflowdeals.co.
Cashflow Property.
Cashflowproperty.co.nz, and jump on there and jump on Shane's database and start seeing the types and quality of deals that he's got, because your deals that you're buying should be at least as good, if not better than Shane's deals, or why wouldn't you be buying the ones off him? Boom. So I've said it. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to start ripping through some of these questions. Lots of people saying g'day from all over the country, which is great. This was a good one. I like this. Hi, Steve. Can you talk about the Wellington market, if it makes sense to invest at all? People leaving, grocery prices sky high. Is it safe to trade? I got asked exactly this question from a client of mine who trades in Wellington and lives in the United States. I got asked this question about 2 o'clock yesterday morning, and I answered it. And what I said was that rents are slipping a little. Rents are starting to come down, maybe $50 a week in Wellington. But there's a massive amount of properties on the market, about 2,600 currently on the market. The average is about 1,200 for this time of year. So there's a massive selection of properties. Now, me and my clients are starting to see properties that we're buying at up to a 50% discount to GV. Yeah, you heard that one right. 50, half price. So the GVs are too high in Wellington at the moment, but you can buy properties at nearly half that GV if you negotiate hard, and if the properties need a renovation and are a bit ugly. All right, listening in from Mexico. Hey, Bradley, welcome, welcome. A lot of international people on today. Yeah, that's right. Shane's other website is Nexus Property as well. So go and have a look at that as well. Well done. Donald Trump says, g'day. How are you, fella? Thought you'd be pretty busy about now. Shane, a question for you. What are the top books that helped you in property investing? What were the books that you read back in the day, sort of thing?
I literally probably couldn't even remember the name of them, but I will put I'll put a post on your page tomorrow.
Cool. Yeah, you would have hit the usual classics, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you might have read the Graham Fowler one and some of that stuff, wouldn't you?
Yep, yeah, and there was a lot of sort of rich mastery books that sort of came out back in the day that were really good. Yep.
Oh,
Even Matt Gilligan's one is really good.
Oh, yeah, Property 101 is a bit of a Bible these days. What's the one that you left me that I've still got here somewhere? One in the States does all the commercial deals. No, I haven't
even read it. Yeah, man, that's more. He's more commercial stuff, but yeah. I'll put a post on there of the books. We even did Joy Thompson even did a book with us in it. When we were like much younger and had energy, and we're just starting out 10 years ago or something. Profit into Property or something.
Yeah. What do you do as a full-time trader during a slump and recession? Work at McDonald's? I don't know, get a job? No, it is harder, honestly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And that's why I think if we are past the bottom of the slump and coming back into a recovery, that now might be a great time to trade for the next 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years. But mainly I'm doing it because, I don't want a linear progression. I don't want a job. I want to do the right strategy at the right time to make the right money, so that I can go and buy hold properties and go and buy an island. I always joke.
And you can trade in a slump. You just got to...
It's just like
adjust the metrics. So obviously you need to be buying stuff at substantial discounts, and then there's people that would want to buy them. There are people who do have finance and do have cash in those markets. So you certainly can. It's just a different strategy. You wouldn't be potentially doing the reno and trade, because that's very high risk. So you're purchasing a property in the hope that you find someone else, but you were the only person that wanted to buy the one that you bought originally. So what are the chances that there's going to be more? So you've just got to do it a little bit differently. But yeah, I mean, it's me and Steve have both traded through from the GFC right through, all sorts of dips. There certainly can be done, but it's experience, and that's why you need to get around people that have done more property cycles than you have, because then they can sort of gear you up. Yep.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Just looking on my phone here, there's been quite a few ticket sales banging through. So thanks, guys, for grabbing your tickets. We'll go to do a few more questions here. We've still got Shane awake. Hey, how do you decide which houses to flip and hold as purely based on lending capacity? For my mind, it's more based on what my portfolio needs at the time. If I need a big handful of cash flow, I might do a contemporaneous settlement or a reno and flip, and then buy the next one after that, because I know I can always find good cash flow property deals. And this is the problem that most people have when they're buying off a property finder or a trader, is they think, well, what's wrong with the property if you're letting it go? But it's not necessarily that. It's more about your ability to borrow the money at the time as well. What are your thoughts, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, you can't buy everything. So, I mean, my business really came out of the fact that I couldn't purchase any more property, but I was actually good at finding deals and good at negotiating. So it can be a win-win insofar as how do you decide between a flip and a hold. Steve's exactly right. So what do you need? So if you are equity poor at the moment, then maybe it's worth, doing a flip to create a bit of cash for equity for another deposit, or even just buying a hold that has a heap of equity in it. If you want cash flow, then obviously you would do a flip, because that's just straight cash. Or if you're looking for a hold, then you would look for a high yield cash flow property that potentially may not have as much capital growth, but it will help balance that portfolio out with serviceability through the bank. So yeah, it's once you create some buying rules, you may find that you might flip 3 or 4 and then hold 1 and flip 3 or 4. That's probably a good sort of little recipe.
Yeah. Great question here. How many bedrooms before it turns into a boarding house? There's different rules for different jurisdictions when it comes to councils, but essentially a 5-bedroom house with the same family group in it is a house. A 6-bedroom house with different family groups living in it is a boarding establishment. But there is a really good explanation of this on the OPS Partners podcast. So if you go to the OPS Partners, OPES partners.co.nz website and find their podcast, you can Google search boarding houses. It gives a really great explanation. Really useful, that one. What else we got? Still a few more tickets banging through, so I'll keep chatting and answering some questions here if anybody has any. Here's a good one. With room rentals, would you use a rental agreement or a flatmate agreement? I'd still use a rental agreement, and you would use the communal areas as communal areas and just rent them the room itself. Is that how you do it, Shane, or what are you working with there?
Yeah, 100% tenancy agreement for each person, fully credit checked, reference checked. Yep. So it's just a standard tenancy agreement, but it is just for that house. But then they use a common area. Yeah, you don't want to have a flatmate sort of situation, because you don't have any rights under the Tenancy Act and stuff. It gets a bit messy, and also deposits, bonds that are paid, they should really be lodged, and so it's actually just correct for every person with both sides of that, I think. But you would have obviously substantially more knowledge of that than me, that read by the room sitch.
With your Christchurch deal, who did the renovations for the 8-bedroom? You, the person who got the trade deal from, or the eventual end owner?
The end owner. Yep. So we just presented the opportunity, gave him floor plans where to put it, and then he purchased it. And then he's quite handy. I think he probably did a lot of the work itself, but I think we worked out it was going to be maybe 10 grand or something to get it done. And we even managed to get him sort of early access to get in and renovate it prior to settlement if he wanted to get a head start. So yeah, so with those contemporaneous, you really I don't want any sort of cash into it. Yeah, that's what is contemporaneous. So ideally, it's presenting the opportunity for them. We have also previously done, me and Steve have done a deal in Wellington where we got quotes for the renovation, and someone who was prepared to do the work and we packaged that together, and we sort of sold the deal to them, and so they didn't really have to do anything except for sort of fund it. So they didn't have to go in and necessarily do it. Yeah.
And you're just teaching them how to suck eggs, really, at that point. It's like, here's the property, here's the rental appraisal, here's the valuation now, here's the valuation when it's finished. Here's the builder standing there telling you that he can do it for this much money and he can start.
No-brainer.
Just so
no-brainer. I know.
And it opens up your scope of people that you can sell that deal to anybody in the country, because they can just pay the money, press the button, and off it goes. I mean, that guy actually came down and did a lot of work himself, worked on it, but like, too easy. Just making it really, really hard for people to say no to the deal, Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a massive transformation. It really was. I remember.
Yeah, I never saw it because it's finished that one night, but I did bank the money and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, remember the mushrooms in the carpet and stuff? The carpet had been wet for that long, the mushrooms had grown, and so I don't think they were magic or anything, but yeah.
There's a resistance from main banks to a lesser degree second-tier lenders. How could one frame it better to the banks when wanting to buy or refinance a property, considered or rented as a boarding house? Yeah. Banks don't particularly love boarding houses. They love the income, but they don't have a box they can slot it into. And a lot of the time, what I'm doing these days is going to a second-tier lender to start with, and then taking that lending from second-tier to first-tier once I've got it set up and running. So, that works really well. Other than that, the easier way to do it is to actually buy the property for cash on the way in, but that becomes pretty expensive.
We'll just have with the example with that one, and this, do you do it on your own due diligence and get legal advice on it, obviously. But the way we did it with the Christchurch one is we had that rental appraisal of 1,200 as a standard house, so he just gave that to the bank, and then I'm not sure which option he chose. Once he owned it, he may well have just done the 1,200, or he might have done a rent by the room.
Yeah.
So that's another way for financing, but you need to work out what you want to do long term.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. Are all these speakers who've had in the webinars going to the boot camp? Yes, they are. Can't wait to see everybody next weekend, get amongst it. Yep, me too. I'm really looking forward to this. I love doing these boot camps, and they're really exciting. And we look like we're going to have pretty much an absolutely sell-out fill room. So look, what I'm going to do now is thank my dear speaker, Shane. Thanks so much for spending the evening sitting on here having a rant with me. I do appreciate it. It's been great. I'll leave the screen up for a bit for the people that are doing their last minute grabbing of their tickets and bits and pieces. If you have any questions, chuck them in the questions comments, or send me a message on Messenger. And I'll see you on Facebook tomorrow, no doubt. We'll be recording some more content. I'm going to do a walkthrough of Shane and my good friend Mason's absolutely destroyed house. That's going to be great fun. And we'll chuck that up on the page tomorrow, and we'll see you next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend at the event at Eden Park in Auckland. Thanks again, Shane. Really appreciate it. I'll let you go and have the rest of your evening.
Great. Thanks for having me. See you later.
Cheers, mate. And thanks everybody else that's online as well. Now, as I said, I'll leave the screen up so anybody that's grabbing the last few tickets can grab theirs, jump online and process those last tickets through. Otherwise, I'll see you next week for the last of the webinar series about how to get the most out of this round of events. And we'll see you on Facebook next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.